Good afternoon, Westwood, and welcome to the Wolverine Report Special Edition. Joined as always by my colleague, partner, Evan Cardimino, also Charlotte Lynch on the switches, Marie Fiscaldo, social media. And folks, we are delighted to have you. This is a Wolverine Report Special Edition right before the holiday close, and we are absolutely delighted to just have a conversation. It's been a spectacular year, with covering sports, Evan, talking about sports. But even with this special, podcast, being able to bring some conversations to you, the viewers, some fun content when it comes to current sports, but also past sports, bring on some of the alumni. And, it's been a really fun year. And, I want to thank you, Evan, for coming up with the idea. None of this would have ever happened if Evan didn't ask me during, I think it was right after one of the last lacrosse games.
Yeah, we were doing, I think it was playoff lacrosse. I don't see one thing. It was either one of the girls or the boys' games, but we were just talking. We usually, Morgan and I, when we're doing the games, we're just talking between. There's a lot of conversations that we cut out, but in between halves and quarters and what have you. But you're just talking, like, God, we should do a podcast. And, Morgan took the idea and ran with it. We set up a time in June 21st, I think, without looking at it.
Yeah.
Came in the studio. We didn't even have this set. So, this has changed so much. I don't know, it's been 6 months already, and we're 25 episodes already in. And I mean, I couldn't have imagined this is where we'd be if you had told me a year ago we'd be doing a sports podcast, let alone have all this. I probably wouldn't have believed you. I had no clue this was going to happen, and I'm happy to do it.
It's been a blast. I got to admit, when you asked me, we talked about it, but I figured it was just going to stay there, us talking about it, because I had never done or thought of a podcast before. So it was kind of like uncomfortable thinking of what do I do? And still learning, I don't really have a great opening or a great close. But I don't think that's what people are watching for. They're watching for because it's the content, the things in between. But you asked again. So when you asked again saying, hey, you want to do this? I was like, all right, give it a shot.
Yeah.
1 episode, 2 episodes, what could go wrong? If it doesn't, go well, we can, focus on the spring or the fall season.
Right.
But since then, it's been a blast. Shout out Todd Zaharik.
Yep. He
He was our first guest.
Brave.
And I think that kind of really created a path for the podcast of there's some great content by being able to bring some of these great coaches and players on to talk to them about the season, ask them about some of the decisions, ask them about, how close is Westwood to its next TVL title? How close is Westwood to its next state championship? Alumni questions. That was really cool. I got to definitely give him a shout out.
I think having guests early on in this show was definitely crucial. I mean, we had some great guests. We had the girls soccer captains.
Yes.
We had Coach Zaharik. We had Mark Zarther with the Florida Panthers, and we had Kathy Delaney-Smith.
Yeah.
Getting those guests early was big for us. I mean, they don't, it's nerve-wracking, I'm sure, for any guest to come onto a show, especially when most people aren't used to being in front of a camera and talking and doing that. And like me, I'm always behind the camera.
Yeah.
But for them to come in and not really know what they're getting into, because at that time, honestly, it was still relatively, you had a couple examples, but that was someone else. That's not me.
Yeah.
And to not know what you're getting into before you get in is definitely nerve-wracking, I can imagine, for them. So, kudos to them for, stepping into the fire and, sort of, being our first guests and giving us the chance to build something here with them.
Yeah, I love what you said. A couple things that I loved about was having the students on. I really love the before and afters. When we had the girls soccer team on, we're talking about the season. We're talking about the rivalries. And, we talked about Hopkinton. And we talked about, Medfield. And when they talked about Hopkinton, they talked about one of the things they said was they had a great game against them because they kept it within 2 goals. So that was a big deal. Like, this year they went out and they beat them. And it was probably one of the most memorable moments of the year, and a memory I'll remember for a while. So to look back then and to look back at what they accomplished and to have that, documented is really cool. Boys football, talking about Holliston. and talking about that rivalry. And I love the honesty too with the athletes. They're like, we don't like Holliston. And if you asked Holliston, they would say, we don't like Westwood. But they're saying that and asking them, hey, what would be a successful season in your eyes? And, one of the immediate things that they said was winning the TVL large, beating Holliston. Check. You got both of those done. So to look back then and then to see what they accomplished during the season, it's like great like content too. Marie did a terrific a reel from that. And then the last thing too, when you mentioned like the likes of bringing like a Kathy Delaney Smith on, what I love about bringing these alumni that are at the top of their professions from what they did, it's a great example that they set of what is possible out of Westwood High School. What is possible out of Westwood? It doesn't even have to be Westwood High School. Like you could be a Westwood resident and go on to do these things. But to become, the all-time winningest Ivy League coach in any sport, there's a lot of leadership that we can tap into, and we did. And to hear kind of from her and Lindsay about different leadership qualities and things that can make us better today. That was really cool and a fun part of these episodes.
So Morgan, I'll pitch this to you now. Out of the 25, including we're taping this before we go on our holiday break, so including Bill Riley, which hasn't released, what was your favorite moment of filming this podcast this year, and what were some of your favorite memories? That's
a great question. Kathy was great because I didn't think she'd ever say yes, and she did. And it was so fun to bring such an important person to the Westwood community, Westwood High School sports back. What she did for Title IX rights. She changed sports for female sports, forever changed because of the likes of Kathy Delaney Smith. And to ask her questions directly about that, to ask her about the 96-game win streak, to ask her about, Harvard was really cool. Having Lindsay Hallion on, really cool because it was special to me. I saw her play. I was an athlete in the same era. She was a year ahead of me. Well, that was awesome. And then having Mike Welby back, who was my head coach in hockey. We won a state championship together, and to talk about that, those are really cool. Marcus Arthur as well. But I'd be remiss not to say having the student athletes on, the way they handle themselves, it's like you said, it's not easy. Like these lights up here, there's some bright lights up here, and it, you can, be intimidated by it. And they come on and they do such a terrific job of talking about their sports and talking in front of a camera. And, when we had like the Division II girls state champions for cross country on, what an episode that was.
Yeah.
And the way they talked about, the team and being a family. And even we're trying to ask them about rivalries, and they're just so humble. They're like, well, they're so nice, That was pretty cool. But those are my favorite episodes. Having the players on. They're really it's hard. It's like they're all my children.
Yeah.
These episodes. So they're all my favorites in my opinion.
It's definitely hard to pick a favorite episode because we have so many great guests, and they come in, and you just talk to them. We talk to them before the show. We talk to them after the show. We spend probably 15 minutes making Charlotte wait, and to Charlotte we apologize, and Michael
shout
as well.
Out Charlotte.
But, we have these guests on, and it's not just the conversation our viewers see on screen. We talk to them when we get to meet these people, and it's been great to meet people and just make those memories and make those connections. And going back to a couple of my favorite moments, I'd have to say, having the state champion girls cross country team, what a technical marvel that was for us. Initially, when I contacted Coach Tian, I had said, have you on and have Coach on and whatever. And as the season kind of progressed, we were just kind of waiting like, oh, well, they're sectional champions. Well, let's wait until after the state championship. And then they won, and we wanted to feature all of them. So we, and shout out to my colleagues, Charlotte, Melinda, Marie, for the help they gave me with getting this set.
Amazing.
We were able to have all the team on.
Yeah.
And another moment, Marcus Arthur, having him on was
the Zoom.
And that wasn't possible without Charlotte.
My goodness.
Who is our technical director, who is doing this right now.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing too, is just having a team. I mean, we, oftentimes a lot of the productions we do here are sort of individual, I would say. Like a lot of the sports I do, most of the time it's
Yeah.
you and I, and before you it was just me.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that no one else would do games. Well, I had a lot of people doing games aside from me, but it's an individual thing, and there's no collaboration.
Yeah.
And I think my favorite memory is just the collaboration this has
Big
been
time.
between too many people to name.
Yes.
I mean, this has been a team effort, and nothing you see here today was a result of just me or just Morgan or anyone. I mean, these walls were painted by Marie. The walls behind me, the set was helped designed by my coworkers, and the feedback was provided.
Yeah.
So, having that was probably my favorite memory from this year.
Like this right here is the easy part.
Yeah.
Working the switcher, what Charlotte's doing is so difficult. And then the editing that gets involved. Like that's hours of editing. And then, you see videos, you'll see pictures, you'll see a bunch of stuff that's added. That's like additional work. This is the easy part. So it does take a team, and we have a pretty darn good one. And so lucky to have, the team around that makes this podcast special. And, none of it also is possible without the viewers, so appreciative of the viewers who are tuning in, that are getting a lot of feedback of, you should bring this guest on, this guest. And I love it because each episode is a different story. And it might be a story about this season, might be a story about this team, or it might be a story about this player from this era. But these are all parts of our town, which is so special to us, and it's in our DNA. And it's also, let's talk about Westwood Media Center. Melinda lives in Westwood. You, Charlotte, and Marie do not live in Westwood, but you guys bleed green. You guys love this town. I mean, you work the government meetings. Sometimes these government meetings run till 11, 12 at night. Guess who's still there filming it? The Westwood Media Center team. You know what? If it was me, I would be like, hey, I'll see you tomorrow. It was a great meeting, but it's 11 o'clock at night. Not them. They're so dedicated to this town. They love this town, and we're so appreciative of the dedication that you guys bring.
It's easy to get dedicated, especially, even at the sports.
Yeah.
I'll go back to that for a second. I mean, how can you watch the teams and not root for them?
Yes.
Before last year at this time, the sports, I was going to games, and I had a couple students. I had Elliot, who we've mentioned before on this show. And Charlotte has gone to a couple games, and I've had a few other people as well. But man, you watch these games and you get invested.
Mm-hmm.
It's, especially for me as someone who likes sports and someone who, I watch sports and I follow sports in my free time outside of here. It's easy for me to get into this team and root for this team.
Yeah.
And to see in a year, sometimes I go, when I'm looking for old footage for editing, we're talking to a team and I need to go back and look. I'll look at the old footage we had. I'll look at the old boys hockey footage, the girls basketball footage from recent episodes. And to see the transformation night and day is just kind of makes me sit there and go, oh, a year ago, no commentary, no, the graphics were different. We didn't have any of the support from our sponsors, Arch Orthodontics and Cadillac and Norwood. And it was, I was happy with it, but to see where it is now, and you especially, I mean, most people don't know Morgan's a volunteer. All of what he does and what you hear is purely out of the kindness of his heart. And to have that is, I mean, I couldn't ask for more. He gives all of his time to us, and everyone here at the Westwood Media Center is extremely grateful for what you've done this season with us and then this year, and how much you've helped us elevate where we're at as well.
Well, thank you. It's good work balance. I work hard at anything I do, but I was somewhat of a workaholic, so having balance to it is great. And to do something that you're passionate about, and to have a great team, that what you're doing is it fires you up. What fires me up is we'll have a big podcast coming up, and I can already see the hard work that you put in before we've even opened it up. And, I put a lot of work into it. You can see that there's a mutual professionalism that goes into these episodes. That's you feel the team aspect to it, going in. Games as well, the prep. You're there an hour before, probably sometimes 2 hours before.
If it's a live game, I'll go early, especially the live football games and the live soccer and live. When we're in those type of places, you gotta, just because of the nature of it, because we don't we're still primarily pre-recorded and edited and not live,
Yeah.
so it's a different challenge, but it's a challenge I enjoy. I think it's easy for us, really, truly. I think you and I both like sports.
Yeah.
I think it boils down to that. And I think when you really like something that you're doing, it doesn't feel like work. This is work, and I come here every day and this is my job, but it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
I get to do this. I get to come to work and make a podcast, and I get to film sports, and there's not many people who can say that. And I feel incredibly fortunate that I get to do that as my career, because this is something that I've always loved doing, and I think it just comes natural to me, and I think it comes natural to you. Like you said, this is not your job. This is what you do in your spare time, and it's your hobby, but you're passionate about it. And I think as a result, it makes it just all the more easier to do it.
Yeah. One thing, too, I wanted to add, you were talking about kind of what was done in a year, and it is remarkable. Like when you look at the graphics, when you look at the live games, and you look at coverage, podcasts, all of that kind of combined, pretty much less than a year. And what I also look at is the relationships. So going to games, and seeing Mr. Mao, seeing Marie on the sidelines, like right on the sideline with the Westwood football team, taking pictures and filming. Like no one used to have access like that. Brad Pindell has a ton of respect for Marie, and that's amazing. And those relationships that have been built because of the respect for what is going on and what's being built is awesome. When you show up 2 hours, having the press box unlocked, and ready to go, like that's awesome. So terrific. I'd be remiss not to give a shout out to Westwood High School. Matt Gillis. The coaches. The coaches have been awesome. The access to them, to talk to them before the games. The interviews after have been a blast. Those have been a hit. We've been getting tons of views of just interviews, post game interviews after wins. With the coaches and the players.
Yeah, and it's great working with the coaches and the staff. I mean, it's gotten to and not in a year ago. This was I'd go to the games, I'd show up, and I film and I leave, but now I go and people say hello, how you doing? The coaches are, Evan, good to see you. I liked your podcast. We have people coming up and saying hello, and it's been great to work with the school, especially working with the students as well. I have to mention our student staff. Staff. I should probably not call them staff because they're not staff. The way that works for us is at the beginning of the year, Marie and I go to the classes and we speak to the students of Miss Mizzuta's class and explain who we are, what we do, what the students can do to get involved. And we mention the sports. So the students have a sign-up sheet where they can go and sign up for games. And, if they go and film a game and edit it, they get paid and they get an opportunity to work. And it's a great opportunity for students that, as someone who liked video, I did not have in high school. And I really enjoy having the students, because the students who sign up for it really want to be there. They want to do the games. They want to do the work. They have this interest in video and sports. We have this year Maeve Curtin, one of our students, who is playing hockey right now on the girls' hockey team on varsity, and she's still signing up for basketball games, which more power to you, because that's a busy schedule, especially with the early morning practices. But having students like her and Elliot and Skylar and Ella and Michael, our intern, who has taken on a bigger role here, he's helped film videos. He's helped us with live government meetings because he has a real interest in it. Having those students, this would not be possible without them as well. Just having all the students helping out and working, and you can tell they love what they do as well. And that's great to have.
Isaac as well, a great student that's helped out. And tell us a little bit too what you've been doing over the summer. So you've had some interns that have student interns over the summer that they report directly to you. And what are some of the things that you've worked on with them?
So we had 2 interns this past summer who were high school students at Westwood High School. So we had Ella and Skylar. So Skylar is a junior and Ella is a senior. And they both came here over the summer interested in learning. Ella is an amazing graphics editor. I don't just say that because I'm biased. Genuinely, for where she is at, one of the best graphics editors I've ever seen. Just some of the stuff that she's put together, and I'll put it on screen right now, an example of some of the stuff she's made. I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was like blown away. And she did a business spotlight for Camellas. She put together a Westwood News Now promo that we use. And she did some other work. They're working on Skylar and Ella are both working on a short film that I believe is still in production. I haven't actually talked to them recently to know.
Yeah.
Skylar did a business spotlight for Junk Teens, which is a local business in Norwood, but it's run by Westwood grads who are at Babson now. So just having the students in who want to do the work is great because we have it, and they get the opportunities to build their resumes at such a young age, and they can go to a college and say, hey, this is the portfolio of work I have, which is, if you're going to a film school, is crucial to have.
Yeah.
Something I didn't have because everything I did was at that point amateur and not refined and not educated, and I didn't have it.
Yeah.
So I ended up not applying to schools that I would have applied to simply because I didn't have the work. So giving those students that opportunity doesn't just benefit us.
No, it's mutual.
Like it helps me out. It takes the workload off, which is nice, but it helps them as well. It helps give them not only the portfolio, but the experience.
Yeah.
Video and any media industry for that matter is not an industry that you can just walk into with no experience. You need to have something.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you'll get through, but it's going to be a lot easier going into a job with learned experiences that, oh, well, I've seen that issue before. I can fix that. A lot of what we do is troubleshooting. So I'm happy to have the interns, and it is a fulfilling part of my job, and I hope to have more interns in the future and, continue what we have.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked to a couple kids who are in college that are interested, in getting involved when they're back from summer break. And that's because of all the great things that have been going on, you know, and I think what you said is awesome, where if you're a Westwood High School student and you want to get into, audio, visual, video, production, anything that, falls into those categories and beyond, to get that head start, roll your sleeves up, and to put that on your resume and your portfolio before you've even started to go to school, college, universities, that's huge. And a lot of towns are doing it. And, to have that available here in Westwood is such an amazing resource where you can do anything when it comes to that, here at Westwood Media Center. You can be in front of the camera too. So have those, and to get your feet wet to see what you like. And to already have an idea of kind of the direction you want to go in before you're taking your first class is awesome. And, what would you say to any students that might have interest? How can they get involved? Can they email you? What's the best way that they can get involved?
The best way for students to get involved, if they want to volunteer or they want to intern or any sort of involvement whatsoever, is to email me, Evan at westwoodmediacenter.tv. Yep. Explain some interest, maybe send some example work. Yeah. You can also email Melinda at Westwood Media Center TV, and who is our executive director, who would also be able to help put you in the right place, and to just sort of explain to us what you're looking to do. Sure. So I'll use an example. Michael, who is our current high school intern, he sent an email. He just reached out to Melinda and said, I'm a senior at Westwood High School. I'm interested in, this is kind of what I want to do with my career. This is kind of what I'm interested in. Is there any work available? And just reaching out. Yeah. Because we have it. We have plenty of work that we do. I mean, there's more than just this show that goes on. We have our newest show, Boston Sports Nuts, which is also a podcast that's about sports, hosted here at Westwood Media Center. We have In Session, which is a show we do after each of our government meetings. Westwood Real Estate with Mike Tinsley, which is a monthly real estate market update. And we have some other stuff in the works, one, for example, with the school department. And we'd like to have more programming as well. We'd like to have a variety of content. So if students aren't necessarily interested in sports, there's opportunities to not only, maybe work on a show like the real estate show where that's maybe an area of interest. There's also the opportunity to create something that you're passionate about. If a student's interested in cooking or engineering or any subject for that matter, if you're interested in reading or books or movies or whatever, there is the resources here to help foster that growth and to create something. And that's what we're looking for at Westwood Media Center. We'd love to have, I tell the students when we go to the class, this is a resource that as a resident of Westwood is available to them. Mm-hmm. And if they're really passionate about video, take advantage of it. Yeah. Because when you're out of Westwood and you're in college, you won't have this at your disposal. I had a professor in college, Steve, and Steve always said to us, because we had an equipment room where we could go and rent equipment, and it didn't cost any money to us except, well, it did in our tuition, but we did not have to pay to get gear. Yeah. And Steve always said, if I were you, I'd be getting gear every day. Yeah. Just going and getting it and using it, because after your 4 years of college, you're not going to be able to come here and get it. If you want to go rent gear, you have to go to a place like Hunt's Photo and rent it and pay money for it. Mm-hmm. And if you're a student and this is really what you're passionate about and this is really what you want to do, take advantage of every opportunity you get, because it's going to help put you in a better place to succeed. Mm-hmm. So,
and to understand everything around production is so important. So like one thing that I was really impressed by is with all those shows and all those the content that you mentioned, there's different sets. There's this is a different desk than what we've normally had. This is, what the Sports Nuts desk has. So to have the knowledge of being able to break down sets, lighting, you see different lighting when it comes to Sports Nuts. Like you have that expertise in all of that, the audio portion, editing, in front of, behind camera, in front of camera, to have that, all of that knowledge is so valuable.
And if I don't have knowledge in something, I have 3 colleagues who do. Yeah. I am not the best person to ask about social media marketing, but Marie, who sits at the desk across from me, sure is.
Rockstar.
And I honestly am not the best on-air personality in this office. Charlotte is, because Charlotte does it so much. So there is enough of a knowledge base here for someone to come in and get what they need out of this, out of us. And once again, it's a great opportunity for students. Having something like this in your town is crucial. I come from a town of 1,000 people. I come from little rinky-dink Dedham, Maine.
Dedham, Maine.
And named after Dedham, Massachusetts.
We found that out.
I went from Dedham to Dedham in my life. So, but there's no community access there. If you want to go see a government meeting or a game at the local school, you have to go in person. Yeah. Didn't have those resources. The town of Bangor, as far as I'm aware, does not have a community access station. Wow. The closest one
that's a city.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. It's a city. It's a city of 35,000 people. So it's not a crazy city, but by Maine standards, that's the third largest city. Yeah. So to have I come from an area that doesn't have something like this. So, and I can speak from just knowing myself that had I would have been all over this. Yeah. So I encourage any student who wants to learn about video, take every opportunity you can get, because, at some point you won't get them. Yeah. Take advantage of it. And if it's not for you, no shame in that. The thing about the students too is sometimes I talk to these students. I'm like, what do you want to do for your career? And they say, well, I'm between this and something else. So then it's like, okay, well, try this.
Try both.
And if you fail or you don't like this or it's not for you, there's no shame in that. Yeah. You gave it a shot. You tried. You learned something, and you grew. Yeah. And that's ultimately what it's all about.
The worst thing you can do is choose not to do something. Go out and try it. Fail quick, and look at failure as learning experience. You succeed or you learn. But be able to laugh at yourself. We're going to be bad at anything that we try for the first time. But you try it again, you're going to be a little bit better. And if you keep showing up and you keep trying, you'll be surprised how quick you will become pretty good at something. and the 1,000 hours rule of if you do anything for, I think it's 10,000 hours.
10,000, yeah.
If you do anything for 10,000 hours, you become an expert or close to an expert. Whether it's golf, whether it's anything, but you can't get to there if you don't keep showing up and you don't keep getting up to the plate and getting those at bats. But I do want to ask you. So Evan, you mentioned they can email you directly. They can email Melinda as well.
Mm-hmm.
Email you tomorrow. So whenever. So it's not like you need to wait till the summer. You can email Evan tomorrow saying, I'm so-and-so. I want to be a part of anything. I want to learn. Here's my interest. Here's, my resume. It can be tomorrow. So if you're listening and you have some interest, shoot him an email. And what I've learned in sales, there's a saying in sales in my profession, and they say, the answer is no if you don't ask. So be bold, go out and ask. We'd love to, I know the Westwood Media Center team would love to have additional, interns to bring on and to teach, learn. And I'm sure there's stuff that you're learning from interns as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I go back to Ella, who when I was sitting with her and reviewing some of her graphics work, at first it did not register. I was like watching, I'm like, wait a second, wait, you made this? I had to stop and be like, how'd you do that? And she showed me, and I was just like, oh my word. Yeah. Like I learn stuff from them all the time. Yeah. And I think that's the other thing about working with a team is you learn from people you work with.
Yes.
I learned so much from just going on site and filming games with you and Tom. Yeah. I mean, Tom sits there and will ask me a question, be like, why do you do this? And I'll sit there and I'll think about it. I'm like, yeah, why do I do that? It doesn't make sense. Or, well, here's why I do it. He goes, oh, you can learn stuff from your colleagues. And I feel like with what we've done the past year, I think I've learned a lot. I've definitely learned a lot. Yeah. So, I learned so much from these students, and I learned so much from the people we meet and the people we talk to on this show, and just talking to them and seeing, sort of what makes them tick and what makes them, function as a person, and how do they approach things, and is there anything I can take from this? Like, we did the episode with Tom Lydon, and he was talking about sort of his approaches to like being on camera, and as he was talking about it, I was sitting there like, that's some really sound advice. I ought to look at that. Yeah. So
how lucky are we
to
have Tom? So Tom helps out tremendously. He helped out with bringing in partners, to partner with Westwood Media Center for the sports. And we are so thankful, Arch Orthodontics and Cadillac and Norwood for a partnership. And having Tom, this guy's a Hall of Fame sports broadcaster. And to have him on these calls for the games, the sports games, it's unbelievable. And we've seen firsthand how talented he is. Like, it is so natural for him to go off the cuff. There is no like script when it comes to like when we go live, and he will go on, and it's so beautifully worded, and his vocabulary is so immense.
And what's funny is he told us too early on is that him doing the commentary of the game play by play, this was new to him too. Yeah. He was, a journalist for many years at WXYZ in Detroit and WFXT down the road. But he had never done something like this. Yeah. And it's crazy how natural it comes to him. Like he's like, oh, I've never done this before. We'll see how it goes. And he steps right in and he does it. I'm like, are you sure you've never done it?
He does a lot of research. So when we do games, he's got a ton of research. He's got notes on notes on notes. And he's got a tremendous memory. You have to be able to remember conversations you had, stats and whatnot, because in the way he will talk about, like say in the opening, the way he'll talk about what the game is, what are the who's playing who, and why is this game important, and what does this matchup mean? He has it so well organized in his head. It's almost like he has those bullet points and he can see them in his head and go boom, boom, boom. Like he has a teleprompter like etched and ready to press play on. It is so natural. But to see it live and to have that resource here in town is remarkable, and feel so blessed to just be able to kind of learn from just sitting next to him,
Yeah.
and hearing and seeing it all unfold. But what a resource. We got literally, it's like having Belichick, put the headset on next to you and just, seeing it game after game after game. You appreciate the art and, certainly learned so much from just watching it, asking questions and, just being a part of it. So it's been, such a blessing in my opinion.
And like you mentioned, he's been a great source for us, helping us introduce partners like Arch and Cadillac and Norwood.
Correct, yeah.
Having them has been a great help for us.
Yeah.
It's added a whole new layer to our sports, and I think it really has elevated what we do. And I want to give a quick shout out to them. And I appreciate their support. I know the team here at Westwood Media Center appreciates their support as well. And we're looking forward to next year. I mean, we're talking about last year, but we only have forward to go and
so talk to me about your vision. You mentioned next year, and you mentioned all the how much has been, how far Westwood Media Center has gone in 1 year. It's remarkable. Where do you see this going? What are some of the things that you would like to see? What are your goals, I guess, if you look a year out from now, in terms of sports coverage?
I think the biggest thing is to refine it in a way. And what I mean by that is I want to take a look at everything I do, Wolverine Report, sports, Westwood Real Estate, and look at it and think a little critically and be like, okay, here's what's working, what's not working, what are things that don't make sense or don't fit, or what are things I can improve on each show, whether it's something as simple as graphics or the way we go in and out of break, or the intros. Is there stuff I can add? I'm sure there's stuff I could add to this show. I'm sure there's stuff I could add to improve everything. For me, I think the biggest thing is I don't want to remain complacent.
Yeah.
I think what we have is good, but I always believe, and I will always believe, that there's not necessarily such a thing as perfect.
Yeah.
And you can always find ways to improve and areas to improve on and things to do and fix. And you're never going to achieve true perfection because I don't believe that it exists.
Yeah.
So what can I do to make this better? What can I do to, as an editor, as a videographer, what can I do? What can I change? Can I change an angle? Can I add another camera? Can I do X, Y, Z? And that's not just for the sports. That's for everything I do. Looking at industry standards, what are our colleagues over at HCAM and Norwood Community doing? What are they doing to for their workflows? Because they have some great broadcasts as well. Last night, as we're taping this, last night was the Hopkinton Westwood game at the New England Sports Complex, and I tuned in and I watched. And credit to Tom Nappy and the crew over at HCAM. I was watching in between periods, and they have highlights, which is really cool. I was watching like, wow, that's interesting. I hadn't even thought about that. That's something that's interesting during a halftime, because hockey halftimes are long. 15, 20 minutes. So, what can we do to improve ourselves and collaborate? And that's the other part of this, collaboration. We recently started the TVL Sportsnet collaboration with all of the TVL community media stations, led by Hopkinton, continuing to work with them and build a relationship there. And, we've been fortunate enough to work with Tom Nappy. On that show, we've had a few segments. Love to continue building that relationship and improving and adding more segments and sending them more content and helping them out, because that's good for not just us as community stations. That's good for the TVL. That's good for sports. That's good for everyone. It's a win-win when we work together and we're not competing. And we're not that we ever would be competing, but working together. The only place we compete is on the rink, or on the court.
Well, it's funny because we were talking last night, and he's like, "Oh, we got two competing, programs and announcers," and I'm like, "Well, Tom, it's not like we're body checking up here. We're here rooting for, we're here we're here celebrating community media is what we were doing." And I also highlighted where Hopkinton girls volleyball was knocked out by Westwood. Tom was at the next round game, which was Westwood versus Westboro in the Final Four, filming on behalf of the TVL Sportsnet, because he's still rooting for TVL teams. If Hopkinton's out, he was still rooting for 'em,
Yeah,
you know?
it's great to see. I'll even throw a collegiate example because it happened recently. The University of Vermont Catamounts just won the men's
Unbelievable.
NCAA championship for soccer.
Yeah.
And all of the America East teams, including my former employer at the University of Maine, were sending out posts congratulating them. And I think we have something similar in the TVL where, you know, it's a fierce competition. And when Westwood and Medfield play, it's a rivalry and you want to win that game. But we're still rooting on our home teams when they're past us. And that's, I think, important because, yeah, we want to beat you, but we also want our teams to win because when they win, it just shows the state that the TVL is one of the best leagues in the state.
Oh, 100%. That was a remarkable win in the fashion, and it was in overtime.
Yep.
And they were Cinderella.
Yep.
And the announcer said it was unbelievable. It goes from Cinderella to national champs.
The first America East team to win a national championship, I believe, ever.
And I'd be remiss not to say, we lost a important figure in the Westwood community last year, and Tim Chant. Tim Chant was he was a girls soccer coach for many years. He also helped out with track. He was the department head for phys ed in Westwood. He passed away last year, and it was a tough loss for the community. He was a soccer player at University of Vermont, and I know his family. They were following along. I have a couple colleagues that are very close, that were very close with Tim, and they still keep in touch with his family. That was a magical win. You know, he was certainly a part of what happened. You know, and how special that was. So I'd be remiss not to mention that, and what a remarkable win. And you mentioned 2025. So, holiday episode. Ringing in the new year, talking about New Year resolutions. What are some of the things that you're excited for in 2025 when it comes to Westwood High School sports, teams, players, outlooks? What are some things that come to mind when you look ahead?
I think the first thing I'm excited about is the upcoming live games we're going to have this winter.
Yep.
I can't for certain tell you the exact dates because they aren't finalized. They almost are. But what I can tell you is that we're going to once again be doing live games for basketball and hockey. Always looking forward to a live game. There's just a different level of prep that goes into it. When I prep for a pre-recorded game, I do it all the time and I enjoy doing it. But when I prep for a live game, that's when it sort of hits you and it sets in and you're just like, I'm getting ready to do this live show. I'm excited for it. You get it. It's just a different.
There's a buzz to it.
Yeah, there's a different vibe to doing stuff live. I mean, I've done live games at UMaine all the time when I was there, and when you're doing it live, there's just something. You get nervous beforehand. I can't really explain it other than you get this, like, I guess, butterflies.
Like you're playing the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You feel like you're just as much a part of it as the players because you're going live, and once you're live, there's nothing you can do.
I mean, the Hopkinton game, it was like we were part of the coaching staff, like excited after those goals. I mean, I'm probably a complete lunatic on half these calls, but it does feel like, you're in the game.
Well, I was gonna say some of our best calls and your best calls have been live. Yeah. I'll mention two of my favorites, which are Evan, you might want to turn the volume down, which I really didn't have much of a choice for. There were only so when we do a live game, the way our microphone setups usually are, at least at this point in time, I'll have the headset microphones that you might see Morgan and Tom or myself wearing from time to time. And then we have, it's a long microphone. It's called a shotgun microphone. And it's a very directional microphone. And you point it, sometimes it sits on my camera. Sometimes it sits on a stand next to me. You point it in the direction you want, and it picks up the audio. So typically, in a live game, I will point it at the field, get the field audio. And it's very directional, so it will pick up whatever I'm pointing at. So usually if I'm at the field, you'll get the kick of the soccer ball, football players tackling, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That game, it was so loud in there that I just cut that mic completely at one point. And the audio quality is not great on that. And I'll be the first to criticize myself. Like, the audio quality was a little rough. But it's because it was that loud. It was
loud, yeah.
And then you go, Evan, you might want to turn the volume down. And I was thinking to myself, I can't really turn it much down more than that. And then my second favorite call, was just the Hopkinton game, the
Yeah.
Hopkinton girls soccer game, which was Gannon the Cannon.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a moment. And thank you. Shout out to Maeve Curtin
Yeah.
for the inside scoop on that. But just doing it live just creates that type of buzz, and you get moments out of it.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy doing it live, and definitely something I'm looking forward to as we go into this new year, and then just continuing to keep it growing at the pace we're at.
Yeah.
I think that's my biggest sort of goal is, we're at a good pace right now. What can we do to keep it moving? What can we do to keep growing? What can we do to keep moving forward and building something and continuing to build it? And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, the live games are something special. There's a buzz to it, and it starts the day of. It's not like hours before. It's the day of. It's like, okay, today's a live game. This is gonna be fun. And what I love the most is the feedback you get from some of the parents and the families saying, after that Hopkinton game, I got feedback from parents saying, oh, our in-laws from Pennsylvania were watching, and they were so thankful that they're able to watch this unfold while we were watching it unfold. And we're texting back and forth after the goals. That is cool to be able to connect everyone, regardless of where you are in the country, to Westwood Sports through these live games, and to watch them slay a dragon in Hopkinton live is the best. And to do that moving forward is for additional games, winter and spring is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it.
And then one other thing hopefully we get next year, we were fortunate enough to break out a new set, the championship set.
Yes.
Hopefully we
Yes.
get to do that a few more times.
There's some good teams
There
that
are.
I think are gonna certainly make some deep runs, and I think winter sports teams and spring sports teams. So, folks, you win a state championship, we're gonna put together the state championship set, and we're bringing you on.
And we want to bring that set out.
That is the equivalent of going to the White House. Is coming to Westwood Media Center for the state championship set, and to be able to have a conversation about how special that season was. Also, for past state champions, you might get a phone call here, for some episodes in the future, and we might break that state championship set out for past state champions.
Yeah.
We'll see.
That's the other thing I think I'm looking forward to is continuing this podcast and meeting some more people, meeting some Westwood alums, some current students who are playing the games right now, and just getting to get more involved with this community and talk to Westwood athletes past, present, and future.
Absolutely. And the last thing I want to kind of leave with too is, we mentioned how special the viewers are and the audience. None of this is possible without you, but also thank you to everyone that supported Westwood Media Center. So I had mentioned in the past, Westwood Media Center, it's a 501c3 profit. So their funding is essentially based off of cable subscriptions. So whether you have Comcast or Verizon, they get a small percentage of those subscriptions that fund all this. Because of cable cutting, that is cut into and lowered that budget. So Westwood Media Center has a donation page where you can support the cause. You can support the amazing resources we have here in town, and it goes directly back to all of you when it comes to content, when it comes to the resource, when it comes to anything that Westwood Media Center is doing. So shout out to everyone that supported. It was really cool to see a lot of the people come forward to support Westwood Media Center. And as simple as you go to westwoodmediacenter.com and there's a donation button on the page.
Yep. westwoodmediacenter.tv/donate. I will put a link on the graphic here when I edit this. But yeah, go to Westwood Media Center. There's a page set up. We appreciate all of those who donated this year, and our raffle donations especially. And a shout out to Scott Sannel,
winner,
who won 2 tickets that you graciously donated from for the Bruins. And
you've sat on those seats, and you've seen firsthand where Bruins shoot
seats.
twice.
They're good seats. Unfortunately, we saw them lose to the Canucks, but they were still great seats nonetheless. And what a view! There's no, especially for the Bruins hockey, I will die on this hill. I think the best way to watch Bruins hockey is from the 300s.
Yes.
Because you get to see everything going on. You get the people up there are diehards, and that's where to be. That's the best place to be in a hockey game.
Oh, absolutely. Been in those seats for like 15 years. And, the folks that are in the seats next to me have been there 15 years. Pete Lee, who sits next to me, was at my brother's wedding. So all happened from just being in having seats next to each other, Bruins games, and a lot of great memories with Stanley Cups and stuff like that. But I think we'll do another raffle, in the future coming
great.
soon as well. But Evan, what a year!
What a year.
And thankful, and looking forward to 2025.
2025 is going to be the year.
It's gonna be the best one yet.
I'm feeling excited for 2025, and we had a great year, and I won't. This is a year I certainly won't forget.
Yep.
But at some point, you gotta look forward, and I'm already looking ahead to what we can do next year, and I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see what 2025 brings.
Absolutely. And folks, the best is yet to come. 2025 is going to be the year of Westwood, the year of Westwood sports. We cannot wait to cover it. We cannot wait to talk about it, and we're looking forward to it. So, thank you all for tuning in to, the past year for the Wolverine Report. And we're looking forward to doing this, running it back, doing it together for 2025. And thank you all for tuning in, and looking forward to seeing you all in 2025 on the next one.